Okay, here's a few minutes of story time about Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. Don't scroll away because you might have been hearing across the internet that Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne have just landed in Switzerland. And if you know anything about this story and you've been hearing about it, Ozzy has arranged to engage in physician assisted suicide, which is legal in Switzerland, and they have a company that does it. You pay, you visit the doctor, it gets all set up, and you literally choose the window of time when you want this to happen. I'm trying to be careful with the language I'm using here because I'm not fully versed in the correct language that you're supposed to use when you're talking about this. Even as a clinical mental health professional, someone who's training in this field, someone who's uh, you know, first line of education is in suicide prevention, suicide postvention, and dealing with these matters directly. But it's going to be a sad reality if I wake up tomorrow and I find out that this has happened. Um, it's obviously their decision, but the reporting I'm hearing is that both Sharon and Ozzy have made this decision and made a decision to go together. And so the second part is what kind of threw me. And so I don't know what the truth is beyond this, about this. I just see that it's being reported. It's starting to come out now. And I wanted to share with you a quick story about when I was a kid living in England. And like I lived in Felixstowe, which is on the eastern seaboard of England in Suffolk County. It's 11 miles outside of Ipswich. Ipswich is a little town there. It has its own little port too, I believe. But these were port towns that when you cross the channel from France, Felixstowe, Harwich, Bristol, these were like the first places you would land coming over from Europe. And when I was a kid, I think it was 1983 or 1980, probably 82 or 83, somewhere in there. 84, maybe at the latest. Um, I spent a lot of time on my bike, getting on British Rail, leaving town. I got a British Rail pass back then, and you could essentially jump on the train and you could go from Felixstowe to London in a few hours. You could cruise all over town, jump on the train at the end of the day and go back home, and nobody was none the wiser. Many times I'd run away from home and go stay at my friend's house, and he had a farm, and we'd go stay the night over there, and we'd camp out on his property quite a bit. And growing up in England was a lot of fun, and all, it feels like a million years ago. It wasn't, it feels, but I know it was moments ago. And even though it feels like that long ago, I know it also feels like moments ago. And one of the times that I ran away with him and we jumped on British Rail, we took our bikes, we decided that we wanted to go to Stonehenge and go see Stonehenge. And this was, I don't know, either right before or right after they had roped it off. And it was probably a little bit after. But there was this thing, and it was called the Beanfield Riot. The Beanfield Riot. I didn't know that this was going to happen. And I didn't know that there was an event scheduled there the next day or whatever. But I think it was after school on a Friday. We skipped, got on British Rail, went to London, and then you travel west and you go out a few more hours, about 3 hours train ride, and you get off there. And one of the first places you get off is near this place called Maple Durham. And Maple Durham Mill is the iconic Maple Durham Mill that's on the very cover. It's the front cover of the Black Sabbath album. And we hung out there and we ate lunch, and I remember like looking at that, and we laughed about it. And his mom and dad listened to Black Sabbath, and I knew people that listened to Black Sabbath, but I was a kid back then. It wasn't the center of my life. And he talked about it more than I did. And I just remember going to Maple Durham Mill, as a kid, and hanging out there in the afternoon. And there was ducks in the water, and we just kind of kicked around and threw rocks, and there were some people there walking around. But it wasn't like a tourist attraction or anything, not even close. So then we traveled a little further, and we got up by Stonehenge, and we camped out that night. and it was fantastic. And I remember camping out there in the field, and then I remember like at night these people were driving in, but they were down the hill from us, and I don't know, maybe 2 football fields away. They were close enough, but far enough. And I remember saying to him, I'm like, wow, what's going on? There must be something going on. And he said, yeah, sometimes there's hippies that camp here, and my parents had brought me here before, and da da da. And I didn't think anything of it. The next day we wake up, and all these people were up and moving around. They were down there in the field. We could see them. You could see Stonehenge right off in the distance. And the police force, the constabulary, invaded this place, and the whole thing was to disperse it. But it ended up being a riot. And I remember like witnessing it. And we were like, we got to get out of here. That was our reaction. We got to get the fuck out of here. And I remember we just kind of watched it for a while, and people were screaming and running and yelling, and you could see like the bobbies truncheoning people. It was a real deal. And I remember like getting on British Rail, and then the bobbies came up to us, the constabulary come up to us, and he said to me, you do the talking, right? And I've always looked this old, okay? So all the people that leave me really nasty comments, tell me how old I look, trust me, I get it. I'm 54 now. When I was 15, I looked old. I was buying beer for people, like when I came back to the United States. I was like, God damn, like no one ever carded me either. So, the bobbies came up to me and they were like, oh, what you boys doing? And I was like, yeah, we're going, I put on the thickest American that I had, because at that time I'd been there 3-4 years, and most of the words that came out of my face sounded a little bit like that. And the Suffolk accent is a bit country, it's a bit thick, and there's a lot of colloquialisms. There's a lot of slang words, is what I'm saying. And there's a lot of small, like minimal words that we used that were substitute words as well as slang words. And of course there was all of the slang of the day, right? So there was all that. So I had to suppress that as hard as I could. And the Bobby was like, oh, you boys, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, we came out to see Stonehenge. I'm an American. My stepdad is stationed at RAF Brentwaters, which was a ways away. And he's like, and you boys took the train all the way down here? And I'm like, yeah, we wanted to see what was up, and we wanted to camp out, but we saw there was something going on, so we got the hell out of there. And he's like, who's this then? And I'm like, that's my brother. And he doesn't talk much. That's what I said. So I wanted to share that with you. That's my Maple Durham and Stonehenge story. And it's sad to hear that, obviously all these rock stars are going to die at some point and come to an end. But it seems like, Ozzy's on, his time is coming to a close faster than we thought. And it's sad if Sharon is going to go as well in this kind of pact with him, because she loved him. And I gotta say, like, he put her through hell, but she stayed with him. And there's, if ever a movie deserved to be told, that is a movie that deserves to be told. The love affair, the in and out, the ups and downs of Sharon and Ozzy, just such an iconic, lifelong relationship, right? And he, aside from his alcoholism, he's been a really wonderful human being. And all the best to you. Hope you like this. Be well.